So it is a beautiful Monday morning. I am out feeding the animals really fast. I want to talk about what we've done this past month in the garden and what our plans are for next year. So excited that we've made some changes. I'll go into that in a little bit, but for now I'm going to feed the chickens and the pigs and the cows and dog and cat, try to get that done so we can quiet them down because they're really loud whenever you don't feed them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that so we can talk on the camera. So I don't have any cattle cubes to give the cows, and they are being so loud right now, so I'm gonna put them in the front field where there's some grass to eat so they will quiet down, because you guys won't be able to hear me if I'm back there in the garden. They are being obnoxiously loud. So I'm gonna open up this gate, try to get them down here and go back up to the garden so we can talk about and look at what I have done the past month in the garden, cleaning up, and what our goals for next year are. Come on, Skip!
Yeah.
We are so excited to go in the front field. So we actually had another baby last month. It's a little heifer, and the other one's a bull calf, so they're looking really healthy, doing really good. Okay, so coming back up here from letting the cows in the front field, we're over by the chickens and the pigs and the main garden. So our pigs will be going off September 19th. They will be going to slaughter, so we won't have them very much longer. We've been focusing on giving them as much vegetables from the garden as possible to keep them really healthy. So they've got a lot of vegetables this past month given to them, and we're still continuing to give them little bits every single day so they have something nutritious to eat from the garden. And then same as the chickens, we always give them just as much scraps from the garden as well. So we love summertime around here because it keeps our animals really healthy. So last month we started a new compost pile. We've been turning that every so often whenever the temperature drops on the temperature gauge, just to keep it cooking down. I'm hoping to get that done by November so I can use that in our garden. But I'm going to turn you guys around here. We're going to walk through the garden and I'm going to show you different things that I've done and what I plan to do next year. So you can see behind me, this is the corn. It's so tall. It's probably like 7 feet tall, but we're actually getting some corn husk and they're starting to, it won't be long actually until we start harvesting all of this. So excited. I hope everything works out where we can store some of this in our freezer for winter time. But I'm going to turn you guys around and we're going to look and see how different everything looks. We've been ripping out plants and cleaning everything up. Last year I told myself by September 1st I wanted to get everything cleaned up and get my cover crop planted, so I just have enough time to let everything grow before our first average frost hits. So you can kind of see behind me that a lot of this stuff is gone. Our cucumbers are cleaned up. I mean, basically most of our summer stuff is cleaned up other than a few little things that we have here still. Okay, looking on into the garden, this is the main entrance in the very front of the garden. So when I planted corn here in the ground, I think I had like a rabbit or something coming in here and eating down the little corn that would pop up and germinate, and I had to replant twice. And I still didn't get the best germination whenever I did that, which I'm pretty sure it was that rabbit. So this is actually a different variety than the variety I have growing in the bed over there. But still, this is actually doing really well. We actually have quite a bit of corn growing on these stalks right here. What we're going to do next year, I'm going to show you guys over here in just a minute. This has completely changed for next year. So I'm telling you, this year The weed seeds have really taken over this garden, and we weeded out weeds. Every week it seemed like we were just weeding out weeds. So I'm trying to figure out a better way and solution to not have to weed so much next year. So I think cutting down most of what I'm getting ready to tell you guys is going to help us next year. But I'm going to go ahead and walk in the garden and kind of talk about what we've done. So we already took out all of our drip tape, sprinkler systems, all of that is cleaned up and we put it away in the garage. So we're basically just have one hose out here that we hand water everything when it gets too dry. And we hope for rain all the time, which we haven't really got that much rain here lately. So this is the front row right here, has the corn. You can see, I mean, it's taller than me. We got some corn growing right here, quite a bit actually on all of these stalks. And this is my brassica. So we got cabbage, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts this fall. A lot of the stuff didn't do as well as I was hoping, but it was kind of my fault too, because I really didn't take good care of it whenever we were in the 90s. I lost a few plants, so I probably won't get very many cabbage this fall, which is fine. My plan is actually to do another round of sauerkraut, and that can last up to 6 months in the fridge. But the cauliflower is doing really well, and the Brussels sprouts actually doing really well. I had to do some organic spray on these because we have really bad worms that was eating everything. So I just been taking care of those, keeping an eye on them. We took out the cucumbers. I have a cover crop growing in here right now. So I have to keep this watered every night to keep it growing, because my plan is to cut it down and just lay it as a cover for wintertime. And my 2 back rows are the same, are in cover crop. So walking over here to the carrot bed. You guys, if you watched one of my videos not that long ago, I seeded this carrot bed for fall. So you can just see, look at this variety right here. It's not doing as good as this variety down here. This variety down here is thick and just taking over everything. And then you come over here, these did not germinate as well and not doing so good. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but we're still getting carrots up here. We'll have plenty for winter. And I actually have a tomato growing in here from the compost. So that's the carrot bed. I have to keep this watered every night because it gets dried out quite a bit. And I want to make sure that they are staying healthy so we actually have carrots this winter. So this is the corn I was showing you guys earlier. It's doing really well. We got quite a bit of corn growing on here. You can see all the little tassels forming. So really hoping that we actually get corn off this. We haven't had corn in a really long time. We haven't even tried to grow corn in a really long time. So this is a first that we've done here, living here on this property. So hopefully we get something out of it. So moving back here, I ripped out our green beans and I put a cover crop in here. I might have to reseed it because it looks really splotchy, but I have to keep that watered every night. My sweet potatoes are still in, my leeks are still in. These are my green onions. And then in my garlic row, which they don't look very well right now because the squash bugs are crazy this time of year, but I planted another round of zucchini in my garlic row. So it's actually been giving us quite a bit of zucchini. But I really need to do something about the squash bugs because I don't think these plants are going to last very long. But coming down here, you could tell that we have already ripped out all of our tomatoes. So they are completely gone, cleaned up. The next step I need to do is I'm just going to cover these buckets this year with shredded leaves. And I have a bunch of shredded leaves over here by my compost in these containers that I have over here. So those are ready to go. I'm just gonna water down this soil and put my shredded leaves on top of my buckets and be good for winter. So I'm not gonna mess with anything with cover crop. I'm just gonna cover everything with leaves. I feel like the leaves did a lot better job than the cover crop I tried this spring. The leaves actually brought in more worms for next year, so I'm going to stick with leaves this year. And then this is my herb garden. I've already ripped out quite a bit. I cut down my parsley hoping that it will come back. And then my rosemary didn't do as well as it did last year, but I mean, it's actually starting to look a little better than it has been. I harvested my oregano already, got some of that dried, and I've been letting my thyme get a little bit bigger before I harvest any of that. Sweet potatoes will be coming out really soon before our first frost, and then same with leek. So this is the asparagus row, and I planted celery on the outskirts of it. And I've already harvested my celery for the year, but you can see they are starting to grow back really big and bushy again. So I might actually get another harvest off my celery before our first frost. And it won't be long, this will all be dying, my asparagus. It'll turn completely brown, so I'll cut it down and then I'll completely remove all of the stuff and it'll just look like a bare row this fall. But I won't do that until it's completely died off. And then looking over here, this is where the cowpeas were. So I got my cover crop here, and then this is where the okra was, cover crop there. So this is actually going to be totally different next year. I won't be planting okra. We decided not to plant okra anymore just because it's just, you have to harvest at a certain time on it, and we're always busy doing other things, and our okra gets overgrown and really tough, so we're not going to worry about that. Honestly, it's just a waste of time for us and our garden. Cowpeas, I'm not sure if I'm going to grow next year or not. I'm just going to give it some time and see how I pressure cook them and see if we like eating them. So that's basically just this half of the garden. A lot of this stuff is still growing for fall, and I won't be ripping out any of this stuff until everything's done and we harvest everything. What I usually do is cover this half of the garden in leaves, because by that time we're by our average frost date and I won't be able to get a cover crop in because of the weather not germinating my cover crop properly. So this half of the garden will be covered in shredded leaves. So that's the right side of the garden. Now we're going to talk about the left side of the garden, which is going to completely change and has changed. So you can see here, it kind of looks a little different than it has been. So what I ended up doing was I actually had 2 rows that were similar to these, one here and one down there. And I had my zinnia flowers in this one and my pepper plants in the other one. So I have been struggling this year to keep up with everything, me and my husband. And he actually has been off work because he hurt his arm and had surgery. So he's had 3 months off work, and he's helped me so much in the garden this year, which was a blessing. But I'm thinking next year, I mean, this has become such a job to take care of this massive garden. And you can see the walk paths are breaking down. They break down within a year, and we have grown so many weeds this year that I felt like we have been just pulling weeds more than we have been harvesting and preserving. So that has been such a challenge this year, and I absolutely hate weeding grass. And you guys know I use a bunch of plastic on my rows because I do not like weeding out any of my rows that I have. But the weeds are continually to go into the walking paths, and it's just been such a mess. So you can't really see any of that on camera because we have already cleaned up basically this whole entire garden from the weeds. And I should have showed you guys actually what it looked like before, but we are just, you know, in a hurry to get all this cleaned up before September rolled around. So looking here, this actually used to be a row of flowers. So I am completely taking it out. You can see that we literally took this whole entire left side where the row was, took all of that dirt and put right here where this used to be a walking path, a huge walking path, and it was always covered in weeds. It was such a pain this year to clean all of that out constantly. So now my plan is that I'm literally going to have a 4-foot walking path with plastic next year that goes all the way around this section of the garden. This half of the garden is going to have a walking path with plastic. So this right here, I took these 2 rows and the walking path that was on this side, and I completely tilled in everything. All of this has been tilled. So what my plan is, I've still got stuff growing right here, my squash plants, my zucchini and yellow squash, and I still got a few watermelon that we haven't harvested yet. But my plan is next year, once I rip all of this plastic up, all of this right here that I tilled up, everything will become one big dirt patch. Walking over here too, I'll show you guys. This right here will be covered in plastic, a 4-foot walking plastic. I've already measured everything out over here. So you can see I took up, there's actually plastic right here. So I took up this plastic and I already tilled all of this up and got all of the big chunks of dirt and rocks broken up. I took the rocks out and tried to break it up a little bit. So once all of this plastic's gone, I'm taking my tiller and I'm going to till everything together. So this is going to be one huge patch next year. And I'm going to have to buy some more of this 4-foot plastic right here. Now this is awesome plastic. It's really thick. It's really durable. It actually can last up to 10 years if you take care of it. If you store it up in the winter time, it can last really long time. And I've had this already for 2 years, all of this plastic, and it's still going strong. So all of this you see here will be dirt, a huge garden patch of dirt. And another thing that I'm changing next year is I'm probably not going to be doing any of the no-till practices anymore. And why I say that, and every garden is totally different, and this garden has been totally different from our previous garden whenever we had a different house 5 years ago. Our last house had perfect dirt, and we actually tilled in our last house. And it was perfect dirt, never had to do anything to it. It grew everything so beautifully. And then we come here and we had to bring in this garden of dirt and mulch. And I started out doing no-till, which honestly, I'm really glad that I did. I'm glad we started a no-till garden, which I say that in the beginning we had to till these rows to break up our clay soil and rocks. Then we started the no-till of just layering everything. And I'm really glad I actually did that. And it's been 2 years now. So the example is like all of this right here that you see was covered in mulch for 2 years. There was a walking path here, but there was actually garden rows here that look like this. But the walking paths, I will say, whenever we tilled up all of this, it tilled up so nicely. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's completely different from our original lawn that we have here. It's so rock hard, clay soil, so many rocks. But since having the mulch on these walking paths, it has really loosened up my clay soil that's underneath everything. But now I'm thinking that I want to go back to tilling up my garden. And why I say that is just, it comes down to, it's hard for me to manage all of this. And just all of these 10 rows that you see on this side is so much work. Like, I'm always layering compost, I'm always putting calcium down, I'm always hand raking it, putting cover crop in, and literally use what I have, these tools. I don't have any machinery or anything. I do everything by hand. And then I'm bringing in mulch. I'm literally scooping everything by hand, bringing it in here, and just working all of these rows. And it's becoming a lot for me. And even though my husband does help me quite a bit, it's still a lot of work for 2 people. So my plan is, for this half of the garden, I'm going to start just tilling, and I think it's just going to be a lot easier for me. And I cover this in plastic anyways for my, watermelon and pumpkins and all that. So it's not going to be that much of a problem because I'm covering this anyways, because it's going to bring up some weed seeds, which I already know that. But it's just going to be a lot more manageable for me next year. Is just till this up in the spring, maybe grow a cover crop real quick, and then till my cover crop in, and then I'm just going to till it, let it sit, and then put my plastic on next year, and then I'm going to plant whatever it is I'm going to be planting in here next year. I honestly need to measure this out and actually tell you guys how big of an area this really is. I think it was last year I actually used my rake and raked up, tried to loosen up all this soil by hand to put my cover crop in. And I don't want to do that anymore. It's just too much work. So I'm just going to till it next year. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do next year with these rows. I might actually take a small tiller and just do the top layer and till up these top layers, just so I can either put my cover crop in or just loosen up the soil, put some compost down, work it in, and then all my amendments that I need for my soil. I'm just tired of doing everything by hand. It's wearing me out, and it's actually burning me out too. Like, I don't want to come in here because I know how hard it is for me to do all this by hand. And my husband's going back to work, so he's not going to be here all the time to help me. I mean, he will help me on certain things that are really hard for me to do, but I try not to ask him too much to help me because he's already working a full-time job. I'm still going to, on this half of the garden, I'm still going to continue to lay mulch down in my walking paths. And I feel like taking half of this garden now and looking at the other half, I don't have to worry about laying mulch anymore. It's going to take so much stress off of me because I'm literally just going to be having plastic walking paths on this side and no more mulch over here. No more mulch for my walking path. I mean, there's mulch all the way around this soil that you're seeing here, and that's a walking path, and it has been full of weeds this year, and it was just so tiring weeding out just the walking path all year. And we let it go the past 2 months, and the weeds were like knee high, full down there. And I took one day and literally weeded out everything, and my hands hurt the next day. I was aching, and I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to kill myself. I know I'm going to get older one day, and I'm not going to want to do this. So I'm trying to make some changes now, so future I won't be burnt out. So starting here, this is mulch, a mulch path right here. So here all the way over will still be mulched in my walkways, which is still quite a bit, which I'm thinking still my entryway I might cover in plastic. So this will cut down on a huge part of weeding weeds next year, because we did get quite a bit of weeds coming in the entrance right here this year. Of course you can't tell now, but we have weeded out everything already. But I'm just tired of weeding weeds. So I'll probably be covering this area, entrance area, in plastic. So basically it's just these rows that you see here will be covered in mulch, and I'll just have to keep up with that every year from now on. So that's a huge change that I'm going to do next year, which I think is going to help me quite a bit. And I'll show you guys down here of a huge mistake that I wish I would have never done. Right here, you could probably see it in my last year's videos. All of this was black plastic at one time, and there's quite a bit of actually a drop off right here. There's a huge slope, and it used to be plastic, just black plastic to help keep out my weeds. So I decided to put mulch on top of this plastic so everything, you know, in the garden would match, it would look good. And I thought it would help keep out the weeds, which I was totally wrong. Huge mistake. I wish I would have just kept the black plastic on top of all of this, because you wouldn't believe how many weeds were coming in on this mulch that you're seeing here. I mean, it was always covered in weeds this year. And I wish I would have never done that, which is too late now. I'm not scraping all of this mulch off the plastic. There's still plastic underneath. But for one, I wasted money in the plastic that I bought because it's serving no purpose for a weed barrier. It's only serving a purpose from the actual ground weeds, but there's still weeds coming in here. And second, I feel like I literally wasted money on this mulch because it's growing weeds still. So there's nothing really I can do about it. My husband said, let's just keep it. We'll just continue to put mulch down, which I hate that because it's just hard work looking at all of this. So all of this is done by a wheelbarrow. Everything you see here, everything has been brought in, all the mulch, by 1 or 2 wheelbarrows, me and my husband. And we have to do that every single year because this stuff breaks down quite a bit. And if you don't put a fresh layer on it every year, you're gonna get, it's gonna break down so much that, I mean, you're just gonna get weeds growing in it constantly. And I'm not gonna lie, I felt really burnt out this year from weeding weeds. And this garden is actually, it's huge, it's massive. If you really think about it, it's not that big of a garden, but what makes it big is mulching all of these rows. So you can see here the mulch has really broken down in this walking path that used to be the walking path that I covered in mulch, which I wish I would have never done. But next year I'm just gonna I'm gonna buy a new roll of plastic, and I'm not gonna cover any mulch on it. I'm just gonna layer on top and try to keep the weeds out from now on. So it might actually take me a couple of years. I might continue to buy the plastic and put it in certain areas. Who knows, I might even cover all of this again, because it's a waste of time to me. It's a waste of time to put mulch here when I know if I just put plastic down one time for years, it's gonna keep the weeds out like it has been the past 2 years. So that was a huge mistake that I know not to do no more. You guys are probably wondering, well, you guys shouldn't be buying so much plastic and putting in your garden, which I understand that. But whenever you're gardening on a huge scale and trying to keep up with everything with just 2 people, I mean, we have kids that help too, but they're nothing like me and my husband taking care of everything. I'm all about what's going to help us in the future. You know, we're going to get older as the days go. I'm not going to sit here and pull weeds all the time and burn myself out, and when I could be, you know, seeding my plants, watching everything grow, harvest, preserve, enjoy that part of it, instead of constantly having to come in here every week and pulling weeds. It's too stressful, it's not fun. So our decision is to use plastic, and I know not many people like that, but it's what I decided to do and what I'm going to continue to probably do from now on, because it's just, I don't want to get burnt out on taking care of this place, because my passion is this garden. I love being in here. I love growing things. I love eating everything from the garden. And I love, honestly, taking care of this garden. I find joy in everything that I do in here, but I don't find joy in weeding the garden all the time. But so enough with that, enough talking about weeding the garden. So this garden has been such a challenge. I actually learned quite a bit these past 2 years. I've dove deep into learning about new things, researching a bunch of things, and I feel like I've got so much knowledge now since I put this garden in. And I'm very thankful for that. I mean, I know it's been such hard work, and there's many days that I haven't felt like coming out here the past 2 years because it is such back-breaking work. But I wouldn't know half the stuff that I know now if it wasn't for all these challenges that I've had the past 2 years. And I'm really grateful that God has shown me a bunch of things that has come up in this garden that I needed to learn. So grateful for that. So now I'm just going to be waiting on my cabbages, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts. I got my frost cloths ready to go. We're actually a month away from our first frost, so these are actually ready to go whenever we get closer to that time, if I need to pull these over and cover them if we're going to get a hard frost. And then my carrots actually will be ready for winter. I'm just going to keep them in the bed. I'm not going to pull any of them up and store them inside. I'm just going to let them store themselves in the soil this year. And we'll just come out and pick what we need through the winter time. And then we're waiting on the corn. Hopefully we get a good corn harvest so we can freeze it. My dad is really good at growing corn, and he has froze his corn for years and years, and it's always been delicious. So I'm hoping that we can do the same thing and put it in our freezer so we can eat it this winter. Oh, that's another thing. My plan next year. Since this is becoming a massive piece of dirt now, we are actually going to be growing a ton of corn next year. That's what our goal is. A huge section of this side will be corn. And we're still going to grow watermelon, we're still going to grow pumpkin. My husband loves watermelon and I love growing pumpkins. Pumpkins are such a fun thing to grow. And actually we've got quite a bit of pumpkins. I'm going to take you guys inside and show you just how many pumpkins we got this year. We actually have quite a bit growing back here still. And I need to actually harvest those soon and cure them and store them inside, because some of those actually can last up to a year that I have growing right there. And then these are the watermelons. We are waiting for them to get done, and some of them aren't doing very well, so those actually have been going to the pigs every day. So we'll pick one and give it to the pigs every single day. And there's quite a bit. You guys probably can't hardly see on the camera. And then our squash is still coming in. So the pigs are really happy about getting a melon or two a day, and then some squash still. And of course they got all the weeds. They got all of the vines from everything. Our cucumbers, all the leftover plants. The pigs have gotten every single thing that we have thrown out of this garden, other than flowers. I don't give the pigs our flower plants or anything like that. It's just strictly edible vegetables and the plants from that. So that's exciting. I'm excited to keep my corn over here this year, which I'll probably grow the corn in the very back since it's really tall, and then I'll just have the watermelon and pumpkins and squash up this way. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the little tour that I had today for September and what we've been up to. So exciting for next year. I got so much to plan for next year and to write out where I'm going to plant everything, and so excited to grow corn, a huge patch of corn next year, and glad that we worked our butts off to clean everything up and get this new patch of dirt. At the end of this clip, I'm going to show you guys the pumpkins that we grew this year, and we cured them into our garage for a couple weeks, and then we stored them into our house, hoping that they will last for 2 months, at least till Halloween, so we can have some decorations on the front porch and the kids can carve these pumpkins, because I was a little early on planting my pumpkins this year, so I'll know that next year not to plant so early. But so far so good. I cured most of them, and a lot of them are stored in my house, and so far they're lasting. And we are in the second week of September, so we still got like a month and a half to make it to Halloween. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in the next video.